You're sitting at the scene of the crash. You're shaken up, scared, and you don't know what to do. And then you find out that the other driver doesn't even have any insurance. So you start running through the worst case scenarios. What do you do now? Do you have to pay out of pocket for all this? And what if you have medical expenses now or in the future? And without the right steps, right now, you're missing out on compensation that you are legally entitled to. I'm Max the Axe, the gold standard in personal injury. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do when the other driver does not have insurance, so you can protect your rights, your future, and avoid getting stuck with bills that shouldn't have been yours in the first place. Step 1. Make sure everyone's safe, then call the police. The first thing I want you to remember, if you're in a car accident like this in Texas and the other guy doesn't have insurance, don't panic. Don't let the anger take over. I know it's easier said than done. You're frustrated at the other person driving around the city with no insurance. And this is especially true if you know that there's a lot of visible property damage to your car, or you already feel like you're injured from this crash. But your safety should come first. Check yourself and check any passengers in your vehicle for injuries. If anyone is hurt, call 911 immediately, even if the injuries are minor. It's better to be safe than sorry. After you check on your own safety, if you can, go to the other car and see how the other driver is doing, or anyone else who is involved in the crash. Don't get into an argument right now about who's at fault or what kind of insurance they have. That part comes later. And once you've made sure that everyone's taken care of, call the police. In Texas, you're legally required to call the police if there's any injury, death, or property damage that appears to be more than $1,000. And let's be honest, that is most accidents these days. But calling the police is even more important when the other driver does not have insurance. You want an official record that the accident happened, and you want the police officer to document that the other driver does not have insurance. The police report will be one of the most important pieces of evidence when you eventually get your claim going to get your bills covered. A quick story is that I had a client once who had this exact thing happen to her, where she was rear-ended in Sugar Land, but she didn't want to make a big fuss about the crash. The other driver was uninsured, but he said that he would pay out of pocket for all the expenses. But a few months later, he was nowhere to be found, and she didn't have any official documentation to back up her side of the story. Don't let that be you. Always call the police. Even if you have any doubts, do not listen to the other driver when they ask you, let's not call the police. Let's just exchange information. Do not listen to them. Always call the police. Step 2. Gather as much evidence as you can. While you're waiting for the police to arrive, you can start collecting evidence. In Texas, evidence is your best friend, and you want to have it especially when you're dealing with an uninsured driver. Remember, you cannot count on their insurance company to investigate the crash or pay anything because they do not exist. Everything is on you. It's your responsibility to make sure you preserve as much evidence as possible. Take photographs of everything: the cars, the intersection, any skid marks on the road, any visible injuries that you have, license plates, phone numbers, whatever you get, take photographs. It's better to have them and not need them than to wish, I should have taken a photograph of that when I was at the scene. Take 100 photographs if you can. Sometimes one of these photographs can be a key difference maker for your case. Get close-ups of the car as well as wide shots for context. You want to take any photographs of witness information, get names, phone numbers, everything you can for any witnesses that you see. You can also ask them what they saw specifically and take a quick video on your phone just talking to them about what they just witnessed. If the other driver is cooperative, it's important to take photographs of the driver's license, the proof of insurance or proof of no insurance, the registration, the license plate, everything that you can. If they admit that they're uninsured, write that down, or if they agree to it, take a video explaining everything. You always want to document the time, date, and location. The more details you have, the stronger your case will be. In Texas, when you have to rely on your own insurance company or possibly sue the other driver, that evidence is critical. I've had cases where the at-fault driver gives to the police officer an expired insurance card and the officer doesn't catch it. So in the police report, it appears that the other driver has insurance. However, my client saved a conversation with the driver where he admitted that he was driving with no insurance. That conversation saved weeks of headaches with negotiating with his own insurance company, which streamlined the process a lot more smoothly. Step 3. Notify your insurance company right away. Here's a critical step that a lot of people miss. You have to tell your insurance company and do it as quickly as possible. In Texas, most auto policies require you to report the accident as soon as possible. This is especially true if you're going to make a claim under your own policy for uninsured or underinsured motorist benefits. Waiting too long can cause your claim to be denied or delayed. When the other driver has no insurance, what you need is called uninsured motorist coverage. This is optional in Texas, but it comes standard in most insurance packages. In fact, in order to disclaim the benefits, you actually have to sign your name saying you do not want uninsured motorist benefits. If you do have uninsured motorist benefits, that will cover your property damage, any medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. When you call your insurer, just stick to the facts. Where did it happen? How did it happen? Who was the other driver? And that he didn't have insurance. Give them the police report number, any photographs that you took, and let them know of any injuries you may have, even if they're minor. Don't be afraid to say that you're shaken up. These car accidents can be extremely traumatic, even ones that appear relatively minor, and the Texas law is on your side. The most common concern that I get from clients is they're worried that their insurance premiums are going to go up if they use their coverage. This is not true. Insurance companies cannot raise your rates if you are not at fault for the crash. Of course, every claim is unique, but do not let this stop you from filing your claim with your insurance company. A quick note is that if you do not have coverage, you'll have to use your health insurance for any injuries and use your collision insurance for any car repairs. Sometimes you can sue the other driver directly, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Step 4, see a doctor, even if you feel mostly fine. I cannot stress this one enough. After a car accident, if you feel in any way different, a little tightness, a little soreness, go see a doctor as soon as possible. A lot of times, the full extent of these injuries don't show up until several days later. And this is not just about protecting your health, it's also about protecting your legal rights. The most common argument that I see from insurance companies when they try to deny your claim is they say that you waited too long before going to the doctor. Now, it's extremely common in Texas for people to say, I don't want to rush to the doctor. I want to wait to see if it gets better on its own. But the insurance company always uses that as a tactic to argue that you weren't hurt or maybe something else is what caused your injuries. Remember that the adrenaline that you feel after a car accident can often mask the injuries that you have. Sometimes they don't show up until later that evening or the next day. In any case, if you feel anything different, tightness, soreness, something feels off, your brain feels foggy, go see a doctor as soon as possible to document those symptoms. Tell the doctor that you were in a car accident. It's important to explain every single symptom that you have for every single part of your body. A lot of times I see clients who will go to the doctor and just complain about the thing that's bothering them the most. For example, they'll say how much their neck hurts, even though they also have back and knee pain. It's important to mention all the parts of your body that are hurt, not just the one that's causing you the most pain. After the appointment, follow your doctor's advice for any further treatment or follow-ups. All of this goes into your medical record, which is extremely important for proving your injuries to the insurance company. If you end up using that coverage, it's important to show and prove to the insurance company your injuries and that you were hurt from the accident. The insurance company will never just take your word for it that you're hurt. They want to see medical documentation. I once had a client in Texas City who was involved in a crash and waited 2 weeks to go see a doctor. By that time, the pain had become much worse, but the insurance company argued that maybe something else is what caused her back pain. We still won her case, but it was a lot more difficult than it needed to be had she just gone to the doctor when she first felt the symptoms. Don't give the insurance company any excuse to deny your claim. Go to the doctor, get checked out, get your medical documentation, and stay protected. Understand your legal options in Texas. When the other driver is uninsured in Texas, you basically have 3 paths forward. First, you can use your uninsured motorist coverage. This is the easiest path to take, it's the most stress-free, and it can be extremely streamlined if you do it the right way. Your own insurer will be paying for your damages, whether that is pain and suffering, medical bills, or lost wages, and then they will sue the at-fault driver later. This process of suing the other driver later is a process that's called subrogation. That is an insurance term that you do not have to worry about, but it's what goes on in the background with your insurance company. Second, if you don't have coverage, but you do have collision coverage, you can use that collision coverage to get your car repaired. For your injuries, you'll have to use your health insurance and ask your doctor to bill them directly. But remember, this usually means that you'll have to pay your deductible and maybe not everything will be covered. Third, you can always sue the uninsured driver. This is actually a bit more complicated than it sounds. If someone's driving around without insurance, they often can't afford to pay a public judgment against them in court. So even if you do get the judge to award you $100,000 or $1 million against that uninsured defendant, it can be extremely difficult to collect from them. However, sometimes it is worth it, especially if the defendant happens to have multiple assets, like multiple houses or a business, multiple cars, assets that are not protected that you can go after to pay for that judgment. In Texas, you have 2 years from the date of the accident to file a lawsuit against the uninsured driver. If you're thinking about going down this road, it's important to talk to an attorney first. We can help you figure out if your claim is worth pursuing or what the likelihood is that you'll be able to collect from this uninsured driver. I had a client once who had her minivan totaled by an uninsured driver here in Houston. Fortunately, she did have coverage, so she recovered quickly. But I've also had plenty of cases where someone gets hurt from an uninsured driver and there's no way to collect from them. That person doesn't have any assets, no wages to garnish, nothing. They wouldn't be able to afford any public judgment against them. It would be impossible to collect. It was a frustrating lesson, but it shows how important having this coverage is on your insurance, because there are a lot of people out there driving around without insurance. Step 6, watch out for common mistakes. Let's talk about some real-world mistakes that I see with many Texas car accidents and uninsured drivers. Mistake number 1, accepting cash on the scene. The other driver might try to offer you money immediately to try to make this thing go away. Do not accept it. This might be a legally binding agreement where you are agreeing not to pursue any damages later. And right now, after the crash, you have no idea how bad your injuries can get. You have no idea what kind of property damage is caused to your car. It might be a lot worse than what appears on the outside. Mistake number 2, skipping the police report. The other driver seems like a nice guy. He just wants to work things out. He doesn't want to call the police and get them involved. It seems like the right thing to do. No, do not listen to them. Always call the police. That legal documentation of the police report can be a make or break situation for your claim when you use your insurance. Mistake number 3, not getting medical care. I know we all want to tough it out and see if the pain just goes away on its own, but it's important to get those injuries documented as soon as possible. Get the injuries documented as soon as possible. That's the most important thing. Mistake number 4, posting about it on social media. Don't post about this stuff on social media. Insurance companies are looking at your profile. Sometimes you can make it private. They have their ways to try to get around it, but just don't take the risk. Don't post about the accident on social media. Don't say anything about how you're feeling after it or what you're going to do legally. Just keep that stuff off of social media, please. And finally, mistake number 5, not calling a lawyer for help. These injury claims can be really complicated, and sometimes the injuries don't show up immediately. Dealing with the insurance company or figuring out insurance coverage can be extremely frustrating, especially knowing that the insurance company doesn't want to pay you anything. Also, most Texas injury law firms, like my own, offer free consultations. You don't have to face the insurance company alone, especially if you have questions. Step 7, protect your finances for the future. Finally, I want to talk about protecting yourself and moving forward. If you've just gone through an accident with an uninsured driver, you're not alone. Almost 15% of Texas drivers are driving around without insurance. That's why it's so important to have this coverage on your policy. It's usually not that much more expensive than the normal policy, and it can be a lifesaver in cases with serious injuries. Also, if you can, make sure that your policy limits are high enough to cover today's medical costs. The price of medical care is as high as it's ever been, and it's only increasing. Talk with your insurance agent about what makes sense for you and your family, what you've learned, and what's next. So to quickly recap, here's what you do if you're in a car accident in Texas and the other driver has no insurance. First, make sure everyone's safe. Call the police, gather as much evidence as possible, and notify your insurance company. Then, see a doctor as quickly as possible and get to know what your legal options are. Avoid common mistakes and take steps to protect yourself in the future. If you want to make sure that you're not leaving any money on the table after a car accident, even when the other driver is uninsured, don't miss my next video, Diminished Value Claims, Recovering Insurance Money After a Car Accident. In that video, I'll show you how your car's lost value could translate into real dollars in your pocket and what the insurance companies try to do to get out of paying you. Arm yourself with information. Click right now to watch and make sure that you get fully compensated. after a wreck. I'll see you over there.